My mother sat at the head of the table criticizing the cheap store-brand bread I'd bought, completely unaware that it was her last meal in this house. She smirked, picking at the crust, telling me for the 1,000th time that I was too weak to survive without her financial management. She didn't know that the eviction notice in her name was already in the mail, or that the recording app in my pocket had just captured her confession. She thought she was the queen of the castle. She was already a trespasser. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I was strangling the ceramic mug. That's the only way to describe it. My knuckles were white, turning a sort of mottled red at the joints, just squeezing the life out of this world's okayest mom mug that Zoe had bought me for $2 at a garage sale 3 years ago. Outside, the rain wasn't just falling, it was assaulting the house. It was one of those gray, relentless mid-November storms that makes the whole world feel like it's underwater. The drops were hammering against the single-pane kitchen window above the sink, a rhythmic, aggressive tat-tat-tat-tat that sounded like fingernails tapping on glass. I stared at a bead of water sliding down the outside of the pane, tracing its path through the grime I hadn't had the energy to clean off in weeks. It wobbled, merged with another drop, and then plummeted. Just like everything else in my life. I knew she was coming. My body knew it before my ears even registered the sound. It was a physical reaction. My shoulders hiked up toward my ears, my stomach twisted into a cold, hard knot, and my breath got shallow. Then came the sound. Click, clack, click, clack. Her heels on the hardwood stairs. Who wears heels inside their own house at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday? My mother, Agnes. That's who. It was a power move. It had always been a power move. She wanted to be taller than me, louder than me, sharper than me, even before she'd had her morning coffee. I looked down at my phone lying on the chipped Formica table. The screen was black, cracked in the top left corner like a spider web, a souvenir from the time I dropped it trying to carry 3 bags of groceries because Agnes refused to help. It sat there like a little black monolith of guilt. I knew Caleb had called. I saw the notification blink last night before I swiped it away in a panic. He'd texted too, probably 3 or 4 times. Did the transfer go through? Is Zoe eating okay? V, answer me. I couldn't look at them. How do you tell your ex-husband, the man you're supposed to be co-parenting with, that the $600 he sent for child support and groceries was currently sitting on my mother's wrist in the form of a gold bracelet, or in her closet as a new pair of Italian leather boots? You don't. You swallow the bile, you drink your lukewarm tea, and you lie. You lie because the alternative is admitting that you're a 30-year-old woman who has lost total control of her own existence. The footsteps stopped. She was in the doorway. I didn't turn around immediately. I took a sip of tea. It was bitter. I'd let the bag steep too long again. Are you really just going to stand there staring at the rain, Veronica? Her voice wasn't loud. Agnes never yelled unless she had an audience. When it was just us, she used this soft, disappointed tone that cut way deeper than a scream. It was the voice of a woman who had expected a diamond and received a lump of coal. I turned slowly, keeping the mug close to my chest like a shield. I'm just finishing my tea, Mom. Good morning. Agnes was standing there, framed by the door jamb, looking like she was about to head to a board meeting at Vogue. Her gray hair was pulled back into a bun so tight it pulled the skin of her face taut, smoothing out wrinkles that weren't really there to begin with. She was wearing a silk blouse, cream-colored, perfectly pressed, and black slacks that didn't have a single piece of lint on them. She looked at me, her eyes sweeping up and down my body. I was wearing oversized sweatpants with a bleach stain on the thigh and a t-shirt I'd probably slept in. Look at you, she sighed, walking into the kitchen. The scent of her perfume, something heavy, floral, and expensive like funeral lilies, hit me instantly. It overpowered the smell of the rain and my stale tea. It's a weekday, Veronica. You look like you've given up on life. I work from home today, Mom. Nobody sees me, I muttered, moving aside as she approached the counter. I see you, she said, her voice sharp. Zoe sees you. Is this the example you want to set for your daughter? Sloth? I'm not being slothful, I trailed off. It wasn't worth it. It never was. I'm having tea. Tea, she scoffed. She reached for the coffee pot I'd brewed earlier. She poured herself a cup, black, no sugar. You waste time on tea while the house falls apart around us. Did you see the dust on the baseboards in the hallway? It's embarrassing. If a neighbor stopped by, I'd die of shame. No one is stopping by in this storm, Mom. That's not the point, is it? She took a sip of coffee, her eyes locking onto mine over the rim of the mug. They were cold, gray, unblinking. The point is standards. You've always lacked them. Agnes leaned against the counter, crossing her ankles. Even her posture was judging me. She held the coffee cup with a delicate pinky extended, a gesture that looked ridiculous in our cramped, peeling kitchen. But she made it look like the kitchen was the problem, not her. So, she said, setting the cup down with a deliberate clink on the saucer she'd pulled from the cupboard. We didn't even use saucers. She must have dug it out from the back of the shelf just to make a point. I heard your phone vibrating all night. Who is calling you at ungodly hours? Or do I have to guess? I stiffened. It wasn't all night. It was a couple of times. It was Caleb, wasn't it? She said his name like it was a disease, like she was diagnosing me with something terminal. I looked down at the table, picking at a loose strip of laminate. He wanted to check in, ask how we are. Agnes let out a sound that was half laugh, half snort. Check in? Please. The man abandoned you. He abandoned this family. Now he calls to check in because he feels guilty. It's pathetic. He didn't abandon us, Mom. We got divorced, and he sends money. He tries. He tries, she mocked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. If he really cared, Veronica, he wouldn't be living in that bachelor pad downtown while you struggle to keep a roof over your head. He'd be here, fixing the gutters, dealing with the bills. But no. He throws a few crumbs at you and you lap it up like a stray dog. It's not crumbs, I said, my voice quiet. He sent the support check last week. He wanted to know if it arrived. The air in the kitchen changed instantly. It got heavier. Agnes picked up her coffee again, blowing on the steam, avoiding my eyes. And what did you tell him? She asked, too casually. I didn't answer, I admitted. Because I don't know what to tell him, Mom. He sent $600. He's asking if I went to the grocery store. And I'm looking at the fridge, and I'm looking at the pantry, and I don't see $600 worth of food. Agnes's eyes snapped back to me. The casualness vanished, replaced by a steely defensiveness. Are we doing this again? Before I've even finished my first cup? I need to know, Mom, I said, feeling a surge of desperation. Where is it? Where is the money? I have $18 in my checking account. 18. We need milk. Zoe needs lunch snacks. The electric bill came yesterday and it was pink, Mom. Pink means overdue. You are so dramatic, she spat, waving a hand dismissively. Do you think this house runs on air? Do you think the heat stays on by magic? Do you have any idea what the oil prices are right now? Of course you don't. You live in a fantasy world where money grows on trees and ex-husbands are heroes. I pay the mortgage, I argued, my voice shaking. My paycheck covers the mortgage and the internet. Caleb's money is supposed to be for food and Zoe. That's the deal. But the fridge is empty. The fridge is not empty, she countered. There are eggs. There is bread. You are just spoiled. You want steak and lobster? We are in a crisis, Veronica. I am managing the best I can with the pittance you bring in and the scraps that man throws at us. But nothing. She slammed the cup down harder this time. Coffee sloshed over the rim onto the counter. I take care of everything. I handle the budgeting. I juggle the creditors so you don't have to deal with the stress. I watch Zoe when you're working. if that's what you call staring at a computer screen. And this is the thanks I get? An interrogation? I'm not interrogating you, I pleaded, feeling that familiar shrinkage, that feeling of becoming small and stupid in her presence. Caleb asked. Caleb isn't here, she shouted. I am. I am the one here picking up the pieces. Tell him whatever you want. Tell him to send more if he's so concerned. But don't you dare stand there and accuse me of mismanagement when you can't even remember to wipe the counters. She gestured aggressively at the spilled coffee. Clean that up, she commanded, turning her back to me. I have a headache now. You always give me a headache. I grabbed a rag, one of the old graying dish towels, and wiped up the coffee puddle. My hands were shaking. I hated that. I hated that my body betrayed me even when my mind was screaming at me to fight back. I threw the rag into the sink and looked at the refrigerator. It was a stainless steel beast, one of the few nice things left from when Caleb lived here. It looked impressive from the outside. I walked over and yanked the door open. The light inside flickered. The bulb was going, casting a dim, sickly yellow glow over the contents. It was pathetic. On the top shelf, a carton of milk that I knew was light because I'd shaken it yesterday. Maybe a cup left, a jar of pickles, a tub of margarine, not butter. Middle shelf. A half-eaten container of yogurt that belonged to Agnes. She'd labeled it with a Sharpie Mom's. A block of cheddar cheese that was hardening around the edges. A bag of carrots that had gone limp. Bottom shelf, nothing. Just the glass, stained with a ring of something sticky I hadn't scrubbed yet. The crisper drawers? Empty, except for a bag of apples that were bruised and soft. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against the cool metal. Mom, I said, not turning around. We have to go to the store today. We really do. Zoe can't take pickles for lunch. I heard Agnes behind me, rummaging through her purse. A Louis Vuitton bag that she claimed was a knockoff, but I knew for a fact was real, because I'd found the receipt 3 months ago and was too cowardly to bring it up. I can't go today, she said breezily. I have my bridge club at noon, and then I have that appointment with the chiropractor. My back is killing me, probably from sleeping on that terrible mattress in the guest room. The guest room mattress is memory foam, Mom. It's brand new. It's too soft. It sinks. It's bad for my alignment. She snapped her compact shut. Look, just make her a sandwich. There's bread. It's the heels of the bread, I said, turning to face her. And we're out of ham. We're out of turkey. What kind of sandwich? A condiment sandwich? Don't be facetious, she warned, applying lipstick in the reflection of the microwave door. Make her grilled cheese. Kids love grilled cheese. With what bread? And we have barely any cheese. Then figure it out, Veronica. Improvise. She spun around, lipstick perfectly applied, face a mask of irritation. My God, you act like we're destitute. We are simply tightening our belts. Why is everything a crisis with you? You create stress where there is none. There is stress because there is no food. I felt my voice rising, cracking. Caleb sent $600. That is enough for 3 weeks of groceries. Where did it go? Did you pay the electric bill? Because I saw the pink envelope. Agnes froze. Her eyes narrowed into slits. You went through my mail? It's our mail. It's addressed to the house. It was on the table. I handle the bills, she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I told you, money is tight. Prices went up. I had to pay the insurance premium on the car. Do you want us to drive around uninsured? Is that what you want? To get sued and lose the house entirely? You paid the car insurance? I asked, skeptical. With the grocery money? It all goes into the same pot, Veronica. It's fungible. You don't understand liquidity. She threw words like fungible and liquidity around whenever she wanted to make me feel uneducated, even though I was the one who balanced our books before she moved in. So we starve so the car is insured? Nobody is starving, she hissed. Stop being so dramatic. I'll pick up some things tomorrow after the funds clear from other sources. What other sources? You don't have an income, Mom. I have my ways. I invest. I move things around. Unlike you, I don't just sit and wait for a man to save me. She checked her watch, a gold Michael Kors piece. I'm going upstairs to finish getting ready. Do not disturb me for an hour and figure out lunch for your daughter. That is your one job. She turned and clicked her way out of the kitchen, leaving me standing there with the hum of the empty refrigerator behind me. I stood there for a full minute, breathing in the smell of stale coffee and rain, trying to stop my hands from shaking. I failed. I needed to check on Zoe. I walked into the living room. The difference between the kitchen and the living room was jarring. The kitchen was cold and utilitarian, but the living room was where Agnes held court, so it was decorated. But decorated in our house just meant clutter. Porcelain figurines on the mantel, stacks of magazines, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Town and Country, fanned out on the coffee table. In the corner near the drafty window, Zoe was sitting on the floor. She was 7, but she looked 5. She was small for her age, with knobby knees and elbows that seemed too sharp. She was wearing her favorite leggings, the ones with the unicorns on them, but they were getting short at the ankles. She was hunched over a piece of printer paper, coloring with a nub of a blue crayon. "Hey, baby," I said, forcing my voice to pitch up to sound cheerful. "What you drawing?" Zoe didn't look up immediately. She kept scrubbing the blue wax onto the paper. "An ocean," she said softly. "It's a storm, like outside." I walked over and sat down on the rug beside her. The carpet felt gritty. The vacuum cleaner had broken 2 weeks ago, and Agnes said a new one wasn't a priority yet. "It's a beautiful storm," I said, smoothing her hair back. Her hair was fine, like spun sugar, but it felt a little dry. "Are you hungry? It's almost lunchtime." Zoe stopped coloring. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes, Caleb's eyes. There were dark circles under them, faint purple shadows that shouldn't be on a 7-year-old's face. "Is Grandma gone?" she whispered. I felt a crack in my heart. "She's upstairs, honey." "Why?" Zoe looked down at her lap. She started peeling the paper wrapper off the crayon. "I don't want to make her mad." "Why would you make her mad?" "Because I'm hungry," she said, her voice barely audible. "But Grandma said I shouldn't be greedy. She said we have to ration." The air left my lungs. "She said that to you?" Zoe nodded. "Yesterday, when I asked for a second granola bar, she said supplies are low and I have to learn self-control." Rage, hot and blinding, flared up in my chest. I grabbed Zoe's hand. It felt cold. "You don't have to ration, Zoe. Not ever. Not for food." I pulled her into a hug, burying my face in her neck so she wouldn't see my eyes tearing up. She smelled like lavender shampoo and Play-Doh. "I'm going to get you a snack right now, okay?" "We don't have the good crackers," she said matter-of-factly, "just the white ones that taste like dust. I'll put some cheese on them. We'll make them fancy. We'll put them in the microwave and melt it. How about that?" She pulled back and gave me a small, weak smile. "Okay, Mama." I got up, my knees cracking. I felt like I was wading through mud. I went back to the kitchen, opened the pantry door, and stared at the box of saltines. It was half empty. The wax paper inside was ripped. I took out 5 crackers. I placed them on a paper towel. I went to the fridge, took the block of cheddar, and used a dull knife to slice off thin, uneven squares. I put them on the crackers and nuked them for 20 seconds. Watching the cheese bubble in the microwave, I felt like the biggest failure on the planet. I was 30 years old. I had a degree. I had a job, even if it was just freelance data entry. And I was feeding my daughter melted cheese on stale crackers for lunch because my mother was holding our lives hostage. The microwave beeped. 3 loud, piercing beeps. I opened the door and the smell of hot, oily cheese wafted out. It wasn't appetizing. It smelled cheap. "What is that smell?" I jumped, nearly dropping the paper towel. Agnes was back. She hadn't stayed upstairs for an hour. She was standing in the kitchen doorway again, holding a basket of laundry. "I'm making Zoe a snack," I said, my back to her. "It smells like burning plastic." she sniffed. She walked over, peered at the pathetic crackers on the counter, and let out a sigh that rattled her ribs. Really, Veronica? That's the best you can do? Sodium and fat? She's hungry, Mom. She said you told her to ration. Why would you tell a 7-year-old to ration food? Agnes dropped the laundry basket on the floor with a thud. I was teaching her the value of resources. Unlike you, I don't believe in overindulgence. Do you want her to grow up entitled? Eating when you're hungry isn't entitled. It's survival. I spun around, facing her. She's a child. She shouldn't be worrying about supplies. Agnes stepped closer, invading my personal space. She was shorter than me, but she always felt taller. She looked up into my face, her expression unreadable, calm, almost bored. "You are hysterical," she said softly. "Look at you, shaking, red-faced. You can barely hold a conversation without falling apart." "I am not." "Shh." She held up a finger. "Listen to me. If you can't handle the pressure of this house, if you can't manage to feed your daughter without having a breakdown, maybe you aren't the best person to be raising her right now." The room went silent. The only sound was the rain and the hum of the fridge. "What?" I whispered. "I'm just saying," Agnes continued, examining her manicure. "If you are so destitute, so incompetent that you have to feed her this garbage, maybe she should go live with Caleb, full time." My blood ran cold. No way. "He has money," Agnes shrugged. "He has a steady job. He probably has a full fridge. If you truly loved her, you wouldn't let your ego keep her here in poverty. Unless, of course, you let me handle things my way without your constant nagging. Then we can make it work. But if you're going to fight me on every penny, well, maybe I should call Caleb myself. Tell him you're struggling. Tell him you're unstable." It was a gun to my head. She knew it. I knew it. She was threatening to call Caleb, not to ask for help for us, but to tell him I was unfit, to take Zoe away. "You wouldn't," I choked out. Agnes smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered a rabbit. "Try me," she said. "Now take those ridiculous crackers to your daughter and stop crying. You look ugly when you cry." She picked up her laundry basket and walked past me toward the washing machine, humming a little tune. I delivered the crackers to Zoe. I watched her eat them. She devoured them in seconds, crumbs falling on her unicorn leggings, and I felt like I was going to vomit. "I'll be right back, sweetie," I said, my voice sounding hollow. "Mommy has to go to the bathroom." I walked down the hall, entered the small bathroom, and locked the door. I turned the lock slowly so it wouldn't click. Then I turned on the sink faucet full blast, then the shower. I needed white noise. I needed a sound barrier. I sat down on the closed toilet lid, pulling my knees up to my chest. My hands were trembling so bad I almost dropped the phone into the bathtub. I unlocked the screen. 3 missed calls from Caleb. 4 texts. I pressed call. It rang once. "Veronica?" His voice was immediate. He must have been holding the phone. He sounded tense, sharp. "Hey," I whispered. I could barely hear myself over the rushing water. "Why are you whispering?" Caleb asked. "Are you okay? I've been trying to reach you since yesterday. Did you get the transfer? Zell said it went through." I couldn't get the words out. My throat was closing up. "Veronica, talk to me. Is Zoe okay? She sent me a weird message on her iPad last night, a bunch of emojis, a sad face and an empty plate. What is going on?" The tears came then. Hot, silent tears streaming down my face, dripping off my chin onto my sweatpants. "Caleb?" I sobbed quietly, pressing the phone hard against my ear. I don't have it." "You don't have what?" "The money." "I don't have the money. I don't have food. We have pickles and crackers. That's it." There was a silence on the other end, a heavy, stunned silence. "I sent you $600 on Friday," Caleb said, his voice low and dangerous. "Where is it?" "She took it," I confessed. Saying it out loud felt like vomiting up poison. "She has access to the account. She said she paid bills. She said she bought insurance. But the fridge is empty, Caleb. She's telling Zoe to ration food." "She what?" Caleb's voice cracked. "She told my daughter to ration?" "I can't stop her," I cried, rocking back and forth. "She threatened me. She said if I complain, she'll tell you I'm unstable and try to take Zoe away. She said I'm unfit." "Veronica, listen to me," Caleb said. He wasn't yelling. He was using his crisis mode voice. Calm, firm, authoritative. "You are not unfit. You are being abused. There is a difference." "I'm scared, Caleb. She's in the kitchen right now. She acts like everything is normal. She's wearing a silk blouse and we don't have milk." "Okay," Caleb said. "Okay, breathe. We are going to fix this. But you have to trust me. Can you do that?" "I don't know if I can do anything," I whispered. "I feel so small." "You are not small. You are Zoe's mother, and we are not going to let her go hungry for one more hour. I'm going to help you, but you have to stop protecting Agnes. You have to be willing to burn it down. Are you ready to do that?" I looked at the water rushing into the tub. I thought about Zoe eating stale crackers with melted cheese. I thought about the perfect grandmother threatening to take my child. "Yes," I said, and for the first time in months, I meant it. "I'm ready." "I'm ready," I said, but my voice was barely a squeak over the roar of the shower I'd left running. "Okay," Caleb said on the other end. "Good, because I'm about to get in my car and drive over there. I'll kick the door down if I have to. I don't care about her bridge club, Veronica. I care that my daughter is eating crackers for lunch." "No," I hissed, panic flaring instantly. I stood up from the toilet lid, my legs numb. "You can't just come over here, Caleb. Not yet. If you barge in screaming, she'll play the victim. She's good at it. You know she is. She'll call the police. She'll tell them you're aggressive. She's threatened it before." "I don't care about her threats." "I do." I wiped my face with the back of my hand, staring at my blotchy reflection in the fogged-up mirror. "She has her name on the lease now, remember? Because my credit was shot after the divorce? Technically, she can trespass you. If the cops come, they'll listen to the calm old lady in the silk blouse, not the angry ex-husband, and then she'll take it out on Zoe when you leave." Caleb sighed, a long, frustrated sound that crackled through the speaker. "So what's the play, V? We can't leave Zoe there starving while we strategize." "I need proof," I said, the idea forming in real time. "If I just accuse her of stealing the money, she denies it. She gaslights me. She says she spent it on bills and I can't prove she didn't because she hides the mail. But if I can find where the money actually went, if I can find receipts or cash or something, then I can confront her. I can show her I know, and I can show you." "You want to play detective?" Caleb sounded skeptical. "Veronica, you hate confrontation. You apologize to telemarketers." "I know," I said, gripping the edge of the sink. The steam was making the bathroom hot, suffocating. But she told Zoe to ration Caleb. Something inside me, it snapped. "I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for her." "Okay," he said, his voice softening. "Okay, but listen to me. Do not put yourself in danger. If she gets physical, she won't. She's not physical. She's psychological. That leaves scars too. Look, I'm going to transfer another $200 to your personal PayPal. Do you still have that secret one? The one linked to your old email?" "Yeah, I think so." "Use that. Order food delivery. Have them drop it at the neighbor's house or something, sneak it in. Just get Zoe a real meal. I'll wait for your signal. But Veronica, if you don't text me by tomorrow morning with a plan, I'm coming over. Police or no police." "I promise," I whispered. "I have to go. The water bill, she'll kill me for running the shower this long." "Let her try," Caleb said darkly. "Be brave, V." I hung up. I turned off the shower. The sudden silence in the bathroom was deafening. I unlocked the door with trembling fingers, splashing cold water on my face to hide the tear tracks. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was hunting. I found Agnes in the living room, exactly where I expected her to be. She was sitting in her winged armchair, the one she'd reupholstered with money I didn't have last year, flipping through a copy of Town and Country. The TV was on low volume, some daytime talk show where people were screaming at each other about paternity tests. It felt fitting. "Mom?" I said, stepping into the room. She didn't look up. She licked her finger and turned a page. Swish. "You were in the bathroom a long time. I hope you aren't getting sick. I can't afford to get sick right now. I have a very busy social calendar." "I'm fine," I said, walking around the sofa so I was standing directly in her line of sight. "I want to talk about the budget again." Agnes sighed, finally lowering the magazine. She looked at me over the top of her reading glasses. Designer frames, of course. "Veronica, we discussed this. The subject is closed. You are becoming obsessive." "I'm not obsessive. I'm broke, and I need to understand." I tried to keep my voice steady, channeling the business voice I used with difficult clients. "You said you paid the car insurance. Can I see the statement? I just want to update my own records." "Your records?" She laughed, a short, sharp bark. "You don't have records. You have a pile of unopened envelopes on your desk that give me anxiety just looking at them." "I want to see the insurance receipt, Mom." "It's filed," she said, lifting the magazine again. "I'm not digging it out now. I'm reading an article about the decline of etiquette in modern society. You should read it. It mentions interrupting people." I took a step closer. "The money Caleb sent, the $600. If you paid the insurance, that's $200. Where is the other $400? That's groceries. That's gas. That's Zoe's school supplies." Agnes slapped the magazine down on her lap. The sound made me flinch, but I held my ground. "You are insinuating something," she said, her voice dropping to that dangerous, icy whisper. "You are standing there, in the house." I manage, implying that I am, what? A thief? "I'm asking for transparency." "Transparency is for corporations, Veronica. Families run on trust and gratitude. Clearly, you lack both." She picked up her remote control and turned the volume up on the TV. "I am leaving in 20 minutes. I suggest you use that time to make yourself useful instead of harassing your mother." "If we don't have food by tonight," I said, speaking over the TV, "I'm going to ask Caleb to bring groceries." Agnes froze. She didn't look at me, but her grip on the remote tightened until her knuckles were white. "If that man steps foot on this property," she said, staring at the screen, "I will make a scene that will embarrass you in front of the entire neighborhood. Do not test me." "Then buy food," I said. She ignored me, turning the volume up another notch. I stood there for 5 seconds, watching the back of her head, realizing that talking to her was like talking to a wall of ice. It wasn't going to crack. I had to go around it. 20 minutes later, the front door slammed. I watched from the kitchen window as Agnes marched down the driveway to her car. My car, actually, a 2018 Honda CR-V that she had commandeered because her back couldn't handle the sedan she'd sold 2 years ago. She was wearing her oversized sunglasses and the beige trench coat she saved for important outings. The engine started. She backed out, clipping the edge of the grass because she never looked in the rearview mirror. Then she was gone. The silence that filled the house was different now. It wasn't oppressive. It was conspiratorial. "Zoe," I called out. "Yeah, Mama." Her voice came from her bedroom. "I'm going to be cleaning Grandma's room for a bit. You stay in your room and play with your Legos, okay? Watch a movie on the iPad." "Okay." I waited. I walked to the bottom of the stairs and listened. Nothing but the hum of the refrigerator. I climbed the stairs. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I felt ridiculous. I was a grown woman sneaking around my own house, but Agnes had established such a boundary around her space, the master bedroom, naturally, that crossing the threshold felt like breaking a law. I reached her door. It was closed. She always kept it closed. I turned the knob. It turned. Thank God. Sometimes she locked it. I pushed the door open and was hit by the smell. It was intense, a mixture of lilies, expensive face powder, and something old and dusty like dried flowers. The room was pristine. The bed was made with hospital corners, the duvet perfectly smooth. The curtains were drawn, casting the room in a dim amber twilight. It felt like a museum exhibit. The life of a martyr. I stepped inside, my feet sinking into the plush rug she'd insisted we buy last winter. It's for insulation, she'd said. It cost $400. I stood in the center of the room, feeling like there were eyes on me. The porcelain dolls on her dresser seemed to be watching. Okay, I whispered to myself, where do you hide the bodies? I started with the obvious, the desk. It was an antique writing desk she'd brought from her old house. It had a roll top and about a dozen little pigeonholes. I sat down in her chair. It creaked. I jumped, freezing for a second before realizing no one was there to hear it. I started pulling papers out of the slots, utility bills, all opened, all marked with red pen. Paid. Pending. Late. Wait. Late? I pulled out the electric bill. She had written paid $11.12 on it, but I had seen the pink envelope yesterday. I looked closer at her handwriting. It was shaky. The date was written over something else. I put it aside. That wasn't the smoking gun. I needed the money trail. I opened the main drawer of the desk. It was organized with military precision. Pens on the left, paper clips in a small dish, a stack of personalized stationery in the center. I lifted the stationery box. Nothing underneath. I checked the side drawers. Old photos. A Bible. A stash of hard candies. Then I saw it. Tucked in the back of the bottom drawer, wedged between a file folder and the wood, was a thick, creamy envelope. It had the logo of the local bank embossed in gold foil on the corner. My breath hitched. This was it. This had to be the cash stash. Agnes didn't trust ATMs. She always talked about keeping liquidity on hand. I pulled the envelope out. It felt heavy, thick. Please be cash, I whispered. Please be the 600. Please be enough to leave. My hands were shaking so bad I almost ripped the flap. I slid my finger under the seal. It was already open. I tipped the envelope over, dumping the contents onto the desk. It wasn't cash. It was cardstock. I picked up the top card. It was a glossy, heavy invitation. You are cordially invited to the Autumn Gala for the Historical Society. Ticket price, $150 per plate. I frowned. Why would she keep this? Then I saw the other papers that had fallen out. They weren't bank statements. They were brochures, luxury river cruises, the Danube, spa weekend packages. And at the very bottom, a small velvet pouch. I opened the pouch. Inside was a keychain. A heavy, gold-plated keychain with the logo of a high-end luxury car dealership. There was a note attached. Mrs. Sterling, thank you for your inquiry regarding the 2024 Lexus. We look forward to your test drive next week. My stomach dropped. She wasn't hiding money. She was shopping. She was out there test driving luxury cars and planning river cruises while I was melting cheese on stale crackers. But this wasn't proof of theft. It was just proof of delusion. I couldn't take this to Caleb. Look, she has a brochure. He'd ask where the money went. Brochures are free. I shoved everything back into the envelope. I felt stupid. I had wasted 10 minutes on a fantasy. Think, Veronica, I hissed. Where does she put the receipts? She keeps receipts for everything. She returns half of what she buys. She hoards them. I looked around the room. The dresser, the nightstand, the jewelry box. The jewelry box sat on the highboy dresser. It was a massive mahogany thing with 3 tiers and velvet lining. Agnes had inherited it from her mother. I walked over to it. I opened the lid. Necklaces, tangled and glittering, gold, silver, pearls, some real, some costume. I lifted the top tray. More jewelry, earrings, brooches. I lifted the second tray, and there it was. It wasn't jewelry. It was a layer of white paper. I reached in and pulled out a fistful of receipts. They were crinkled, smoothed out, and stacked. I started reading them, my heart rate spiking with every line item. Receipt 1, Nordstrom rack. Date, yesterday. Item, cashmere scarf. Price, $89. Item, leather gloves. Price, $65. Total, $154. Payment method, debit. 8. That was my card. The joint account card. Receipt 2, the Gilded Lily Day Spa. Date, Friday. Service, 60-minute deep tissue. Add-on, aromatherapy. Total, $140. Payment method, debit. 98. Friday. The day Caleb sent the money. She got a massage the same day she told me the transfer was pending. I kept digging. There were dozens of them. Receipt 3, Le Petit Bistro. Lunch for 2, $85. Receipt 4, Sephora. Anti-aging cream, $110. And then the one that made me physically gag. Receipt 5, Wonderworld Toy Store. Date, 3 days ago. Item, deluxe art set. Price, $45. Item, Lego castle. Price, $120. Zoe loves Legos. She had been begging for a castle for her birthday, which was last month. We told her we couldn't afford it. But here was the receipt. "Where is it?" I whispered, staring at the paper. "Where are the toys?" Then it hit me. Mrs. Gable, Agnes's bridge friend. Her granddaughter had a birthday party this weekend. Agnes had gone. She said she brought a small token. She had bought a $120 Lego set for a stranger's kid using my grocery money, just to look rich in front of her friends. Meanwhile, Zoe was drawing on printer paper with broken crayons. "You monster," I said out loud. The word tasted like ash. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't scared. I was furious. It was a cold, hard fury that settled in my gut like a stone. I grabbed my phone. I needed pictures. I needed to document this before I put it back. I snapped a photo of the Lego receipt, then the spa receipt, then the debit card number on the bottom of the Nordstrom slip. My hands were shaking, making the camera struggle to focus. Come on, instant, flash. The light reflected off the glossy paper. Suddenly, a sound cut through the silence. The rumble of an engine, the crunch of tires on gravel. She was back. Panic is a physical blow. It hit me in the chest, knocking the wind out of me. I looked at the clock on the nightstand. She had been gone 40 minutes. She said she had bridge. Bridge lasts 2 hours. Why was she back? The receipts. I had them fanned out all over the top of the dresser. Oh God, oh God, oh God. I heard the car door slam outside. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I started grabbing the receipts. They were slippery. I tried to stack them back in order. Nordstrom on top, Spa on bottom, but my fingers were clumsy. I shoved them back into the bottom of the jewelry box. One crumpled. It made a loud crinkle sound. Smooth it out, I mentally screamed. I pressed down on the paper, trying to flatten it. I dropped the jewelry tray back on top. It didn't sit right. A necklace chain was caught. Click, clack. The front door opened downstairs. "Veronica!" Her voice floated up the stairs. "I forgot my reading glasses. Are you here?" "Just a second," I yelled back. My voice sounded strangled, high-pitched. I fiddled with the necklace, yanking it free. The tray snapped into place. I slammed the lid of the jewelry box shut. I looked around. Had I moved anything else? The chair. I had pulled the chair out. I rushed to the desk, shoving the chair back in. It scraped against the floor. Loud. Too loud. "Veronica!" Her footsteps were starting up the stairs. Click, clack, click, clack. Faster this time. I couldn't get caught in here. If she found me in her room, the violation would give her ammo for months. She'd change the locks. She'd hide the key. I sprinted to the door. I could hear her breathing on the landing. She was almost at the top. I didn't have time to get to the hallway. I dove into the walk-in closet just as the bedroom door handle turned. I pulled the closet door shut, leaving a tiny crack. I held my breath, pressing my hand over my mouth to stifle the sound of my own heart, which was beating so hard I was sure she could hear it through the wood. The bedroom door opened. Agnes walked in. I could see a sliver of her through the crack. She paused. She stood perfectly still in the center of the room. She sniffed the air. "Humph," she grunted. She walked to the nightstand, grabbed her glasses, and turned around. She paused again, looking at the jewelry box. My lungs were burning. "Please don't check. Please don't check." She reached out, running a finger along the lid of the box, checking for dust. Then she turned and walked out, closing the bedroom door behind her. I slumped against the back of the closet door, sliding down to the floor amongst her rows of shoes, gasping for air like a diver surfacing from deep water. I had the photos, but I had almost lost everything. I waited in the closet for 5 minutes after her footsteps faded down the hall, then another 5 just to be safe. When I finally crept out, my legs were cramped, and my shirt was sticking to my back with sweat. I made it to my room, hid the phone under my mattress. Paranoid, I know, but I felt like I was living in a spy novel, and went downstairs. I found Agnes in the kitchen. She had returned from her errands. The table, usually bare, except for the fruit bowl containing 3 sad, wrinkly apples, was now covered in shopping bags, glossy, thick paper bags with rope handles. Nordstrom, Williams, Sonoma, Sephora. There were no plastic grocery bags, no milk, no bread. "Oh, good, you're down," Agnes said. She was humming, actually humming, as she pulled a box out of the Williams Sonoma bag. "Come help me unpack. My sciatica is flaring up from carrying all this." I walked over slowly, my eyes glued to the bags. "You went shopping." "I did," she beamed. She looked rejuvenated. The bridge game must have been canceled, or maybe she just needed a retail therapy fix more than cards. "Look at this, Veronica. It's an espresso machine, the Vertuo line. It makes the crema just like in Italy." She patted the box like it was a puppy. "We have a coffee pot," I said, my voice flat. "It works fine." "That thing produces sludge," she dismissed, waving a hand. "This is civilization. And look!" She reached into the Sephora bag and pulled out a small, heavy jar. "I got that night cream I was telling you about, the one with the retinol. My skin has been looking so dull lately, probably from the stress of, well, everything." "That cream is $90, I said. I didn't ask. I knew. I had seen the price tag on the shelf 1,000,000 times and walked past it. "It's an investment," she corrected. "You only get one face, Veronica. You should remember that. You're starting to get crow's feet." I looked at the counter, the Nespresso machine, the cream, a new scarf draped over the chair, cashmere, charcoal gray. "Did you get groceries?" I asked. Agnes paused, her hand hovering over the Nespresso box. "I didn't have time. The traffic near the mall was horrendous. I'll go tomorrow." "You spent—" I did the math in my head, looking at the bags. "You spent at least $400 here, Mom. Maybe 5. "So?" She ripped the tape off the box. "So that was the food money," I said, my voice rising. "That was Caleb's money. You spent our food budget on a coffee maker and face cream." "Lower your voice," she snapped, not looking up. "I used my own funds for some of this. You don't know my finances." "I know you don't have a job," I shouted. "I know you drained your savings 3 years ago. That money came from the joint account. I got the notifications on my phone, Mom. I turned them back on." That was a lie. I hadn't turned them on. I had seen the receipts, but I needed to see her reaction. She stopped unpacking. She stood up straight, smoothing her silk blouse. She turned to me, her face completely void of guilt. "You are hysterical," she said, calm, cool, collected. "I needed these things for the house, for us. Do you think I enjoy living in squalor? Do you think I enjoy drinking bad coffee and looking haggard? I do this to keep morale up, to keep some semblance of dignity in this family." dignity is feeding your granddaughter. I pointed at the bags. Take it back. Take it all back right now and go buy food. Agnes let out a cold, incredulous laugh. I will do no such thing. These were final sale, and I am not a servant you can order around. Now, make yourself useful and find a spot for this machine. The counter is cluttered with your junk. No, I said. Agnes blinked. It was a small movement, just a flutter of her eyelashes, but it was the first time I'd surprised her in years. Excuse me? No, I repeated, my hands balling into fists at my sides. I'm not finding a spot for the coffee maker. I'm not helping you, and I know about the Legos. The air left the room. It was like a vacuum sealed shut around us. Agnes went very still. Her eyes, which had been dismissive, suddenly sharpened into pinpricks. What are you babbling about? The Lego castle, I said, stepping closer. I could smell her perfume again, that cloying lily scent. The one you bought at Wonderworld 3 days ago, $120. You told Zoe we couldn't afford it for her birthday, but you bought it. Who is it for, Mom? Who is playing with my daughter's castle? Agnes stared at me for a long, agonizing moment. Then she rolled her eyes. Oh, for heaven's sake, are you spying on me now? Is that what you do while I'm out trying to manage our lives? Answer the question. It was for Susan's granddaughter, she exploded, throwing her hands up. Susan from Bridge. It was her birthday party. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it is to show up empty-handed, to be the poor relation? The charity case? So you bought a stranger's kid a toy we couldn't afford for your own granddaughter? It's about status, Veronica. It's about reputation. If people think we're broke, they treat us like garbage. I did it to protect our standing in the community. We are broke, I screamed. We are broke because you spend money on status instead of survival. Zoe is eating crackers. She's hungry, Mom, and you're worried about what Susan thinks? Zoe is fine, Agnes yelled back, her composure finally cracking. Her face was flushed, ugly red blotches appearing on her neck. She is a child. She doesn't know what she wants. She would eat candy all day if you let her. You are twisting everything to make me the villain because you can't handle your own failures. You failed your marriage. You're failing your career. And now you want to blame me for trying to keep up appearances? I blame you for stealing. I am not stealing. I am the head of this household. She slammed her hand down on the counter, right next to the Nespresso machine. The box rattled. I make the executive decisions, and if I decide we need to maintain social capital, then that is what we do. You should be thanking me for keeping us relevant. I don't want to be relevant. I want to be fed. Then get a better job, she spat. Get a real husband. Stop whining to me about money when you bring nothing to the table but debt and drama. She grabbed the Nespresso box and shoved it into my chest. I stumbled back, catching it reflexively. Put it away, she hissed, leaning into my face. And if you ever accuse me of theft again, I will call my lawyer. Yes, I have one. And I will tell him exactly how unstable you've been lately. Don't think I won't. She spun on her heel and marched out of the kitchen. I stood there, holding the coffee maker, shaking so hard my teeth were chattering. I wanted to throw it through the window. Instead, I set it down on the table, right next to the Sephora bag. I have photos, I whispered to the empty room. I have photos, you witch. The next morning, the house was a tomb. Usually there was noise. The TV, Agnes humming, the sound of her complaining about the weather. Today, there was nothing. A thick, heavy silence that pressed against your eardrums. I walked into the kitchen. Agnes was there, sitting at the table drinking coffee from her new machine. It made a loud, whirring sound as it brewed a second cup. She didn't look at me. She didn't acknowledge my existence. She stared straight ahead at the wall, her face a mask of stone. Zoe was sitting at the table, too. She was eating a bowl of oatmeal, watery because we had no milk. She looked small and terrified. She was moving her spoon in slow motion, trying not to make a sound. "Good morning, baby," I said, kissing the top of Zoe's head. Zoe looked at Agnes, then at me. She whispered, "Morning, Mama." I went to the cupboard to get a mug. I didn't have Nespresso pods. I had instant coffee. I made a cup with hot water from the tap because I didn't want to stand near Agnes to use the kettle. I sat down opposite them. "So," I said, trying to break the ice for Zoe's sake, "it's supposed to be sunny later." Agnes picked up her phone and started scrolling. She didn't blink. "Grandma?" Zoe asked tentatively. "Can I have some sugar for my oatmeal?" Agnes didn't move. She didn't twitch. It was like Zoe wasn't there. "Mom," I said sharply, "Zoe is talking to you." Nothing. Zoe's lip trembled. Did I do something bad? "No, sweetie," I said quickly, reaching across the table to grab her hand. "You didn't do anything. Grandma is just having a quiet time. Here." I got up, grabbed the sugar bowl, and sprinkled a little on her oatmeal. "Eat up. We have to get ready for school." Agnes stood up abruptly. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Zoe jumped. Agnes walked to the sink, poured the rest of her expensive coffee down the drain, and walked out of the room. She didn't look at us once. It was a performance, a punishment. She was showing us that without her benevolence, we were invisible. "Why is she mad?" Zoe whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. "She's not mad at you," I said, feeling a fresh wave of hatred for the woman walking up the stairs. "She's just wrong. She's wrong, Zoe, and we're going to fix it." An hour later, I walked Zoe to the bus stop. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold and damp. When I walked back up the driveway, I saw Mrs. Higgins standing by her mailbox at the edge of the adjacent lawn. Mrs. Higgins was 70, wore bright purple tracksuits, and knew everything that happened on this street within 5 minutes of it occurring. Agnes called her "that tacky woman," which meant Mrs. Higgins was probably a decent person. I tried to give a polite wave and keep walking, but she beckoned me over. "Veronica," she hissed, "come here for a second." I glanced at the house. Agnes's car was still there. She was probably watching from the window. I walked over to the hedge separating our yards. "Hi, Mrs. Higgins. I can't stay long. Is she in there?" Mrs. Higgins jerked her head toward my house. "Yes. Listen to me." Mrs. Higgins reached into the pocket of her windbreaker. I wasn't going to say anything because, well, it's a felony to tamper with mail and I don't want trouble. But I saw her doing it again yesterday. "Doing what?" "The mail, honey." Mrs. Higgins pulled out a crumpled, slightly damp envelope. "I was out walking the dog. The mail carrier had just left. Your mother came out, went through the box, took a stack out, and then she dropped this in my recycling bin, right on top." She handed me the envelope. It was addressed to me. The return address was Caleb's apartment. It had been opened. The flap was torn jaggedly and then crumpled up. "I fished it out," Mrs. Higgins whispered, looking around like we were dealing drugs. "She does it all the time. I've seen her toss flyers, bills, but this looked personal. I thought you should have it." I took the letter, my fingers brushing the damp paper. "She throws my mail away?" "In my bin," Mrs. Higgins confirmed, "so you won't find it in your own trash. She's slippery, that one. I never liked her eyes. Shark eyes." I looked at the letter. It was postmarked 2 weeks ago. "Thank you, Mrs. Higgins," I said, my voice shaking. I didn't know." "You be careful," she said, patting my hand over the hedge. "You need anything, you come knock. I have a casserole in the freezer. You look like you aren't eating enough." "I might take you up on that," I said. "Thank you." I shoved the letter into my hoodie pocket and walked back to the house, feeling the paper burn against my skin. It was more proof. But more than that, it was validation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't losing things. I was being erased. I waited until I was back in the bathroom with the fan on to read the letter. It wasn't long. "V," I tried calling. "Just wanted to say I found a potential therapist for Zoe if you're interested. Covered by my insurance. Also enclosed is a gift card for that bookstore she likes. Let her buy some comics. Keep your head up. C." The gift card was gone, of course. Agnes had probably used it to buy a coffee table book about French architecture. I pulled out my phone. I texted Caleb. Me. Code red. Come tomorrow, 3 p.m. She'll be here, but I don't care anymore. Caleb. I'll be there. Should I bring the police? Me. No, not yet. I want to tell her we're leaving to her face. I want to see her face when I do it. Just bring the car and space for boxes. Caleb. Copy that. Hang tight. I put the phone away. I had 24 hours. I spent the rest of the day cleaning. It was a compulsion. Agnes had called me a slob, said the house was filthy. I scrubbed the baseboards. I bleached the grout in the kitchen. I vacuumed until the motor smelled hot. I wasn't cleaning for her. I was cleaning to prove her wrong. I wanted the house to be spotless when I walked out of it. I wanted there to be absolutely nothing she could say about me after I was gone. Look at this, I muttered, scrubbing a spot on the floor that was already clean. It's perfect, and I hate it. Agnes watched me from the sofa. She didn't help. She just watched over her magazine, a small, smug smile playing on her lips. She thought she had won. She thought her silence had broken me, and I was now trying to earn her favor back by playing the maid. You missed a spot near the vent, she said around 4 p.m. I got it, I said, not looking up. Make sure you do the windows tomorrow, she added. They're streaky. Okay, Mom, I said. I'll do the windows. I won't be here to do the windows, I thought. You can do your own damn windows. The next day, at 2:55 p.m., I was pacing the living room. I was wearing jeans and a clean sweater, no stains. I had brushed my hair. I had even put on mascara. Agnes was in the kitchen, arranging flowers she had cut from the neighbor's garden, without asking, I suspected. Ding-dong. The doorbell was like a gong. I'll get it, Agnes sang out. She beat me to the door. She opened it with a flourish. Caleb, she exclaimed, her voice dripping with fake honey. What a surprise. We weren't expecting you. Caleb stood on the porch. He looked tired but solid. He was wearing his leather jacket and boots. He looked like a tank. Hello, Agnes, he said, his voice tight. I called Veronica. She knows I'm coming. Oh, did she? Agnes glanced back at me, feigning confusion. She tells me nothing. Come in, come in. Don't let the draft in. Caleb stepped inside. The house smelled of bleach and lilies. Can I get you tea? Agnes offered, clasping her hands. I just bought an espresso machine. It makes wonderful espresso, or maybe some biscotti. I don't have much. We live simply, but I always have something for guests. It was nauseating. She was playing the gracious grandmother living in poverty card perfectly. No tea, Agnes, Caleb said, stepping past her to look at me. His eyes scanned my face, checking for bruises, for tears. I'm just here to talk to V and see Zoe. Zoe is at school until 3:30, Agnes said quickly. But we can chat. How is work? Still at that startup? It's a tech firm, Agnes, and it's doing fine. He walked over to me and put a hand on my shoulder. His grip was warm, grounding. You ready? Ready for what? Agnes asked, her smile faltering just a fraction. Her eyes darted to Caleb's hand on my shoulder. Are you two going somewhere? We need to talk privately, I said, in the den. Privately? Agnes laughed, a brittle sound. In my house, don't be silly, we have no secrets here. We are a family. Sit down, Caleb. Let me tell you about how poorly the roof is holding up. Maybe you can contribute to the repair fund. We're going to the den, Caleb said firmly. He didn't wait for her permission. He guided me toward the back room. Agnes stood in the hallway, her smile gone, replaced by a look of cold suspicion. I wouldn't go in there, she called after us. It's dusty. Veronica hasn't cleaned it in months. I ignored her. I opened the door to the den and walked in, Caleb right behind me. I closed the door and locked it. She's worse than I remembered, Caleb whispered, looking at the door like it might explode. You have no idea, I said, pulling the envelope and the photos from my pocket. Look at this. The den smelled like old paper and stagnation. It was a room we rarely used, mostly because Agnes had filled it with boxes of heirlooms, porcelain dolls with dead eyes, stacks of Encyclopedia Britannicas from 1990, and moth-eaten rugs rolled up in the corners. I locked the door. The click of the latch felt loud in the small room. Caleb turned to me, his jaw set tight. "Okay, show me." I pulled the crumpled letter out of my pocket first. "Mrs. Higgins found this in her recycling bin. Agnes threw it away. It's the one you sent 2 weeks ago with the gift card." Caleb took the envelope. He ran his thumb over the jagged tear where Agnes had ripped it open. He didn't say anything, but the vein in his temple throbbed. He pulled out the letter, read his own handwriting, and then looked at the empty space where the gift card should have been. "She stole a gift card," he said, his voice flat, dangerous. "For a bookstore. For her granddaughter." "That's not even the worst part," I whispered. I unlocked my phone and opened the gallery. My hands were shaking again. I hated it. I hated that even with the door locked, I felt like she was watching us. "Look at these." I handed him the phone. I watched his face as he swiped through the photos. First, the Nordstrom receipt, his eyebrows pulled together, then the spa receipt. He let out a sharp exhale through his nose, then the Lego receipt. He stopped swiping. He stared at the screen for a long time. The silence in the room stretched, heavy and suffocating. $120, he murmured, for a castle. "She gave it to her bridge friend's kid," I said, "to show off. Meanwhile, Zoe is coloring on printer paper because she says sketchbooks are a waste of money." Caleb looked up. His eyes were wet, not with sadness, but with a furious, burning rage. "I sent you money for food, Veronica. I worked overtime last week to send that extra cash because I thought you guys were just having a bad month with the heating bill, and she spent it on toys for strangers?" "She controls the account," I said, leaning back against a stack of boxes. I was stupid. I let her keep her name on it because she said it helped her manage the household expenses. She gaslit me, Caleb. She made me believe we were broke. "This is theft," Caleb said, handing the phone back to me. "It's financial abuse. And stealing mail, that's a federal crime." "I know," I said. "But if I call the cops, she'll spin it. She'll say she bought the stuff for the house. She'll say I'm ungrateful. And she's on the deed, Caleb. Half the house is legally hers since the refinance. If I start a war, I'm stuck in a trench with the enemy." Caleb started pacing the small strip of clear floor between the boxes. His boots thudded softly on the carpet. "You aren't stuck," he said, turning to face me. "You're leaving." "I can't just leave," I argued, the old panic rising up. "I have no savings. My credit score is tanked because of the joint debts she racked up. No landlord will approve me." "I already did it," Caleb said. I froze. "What?" "I found a place," he said. He stopped pacing and looked me dead in the eye. "It's a 2-bedroom apartment on Elm Street, about 10 minutes from here. It's small, it's a walk-up, but it's clean. The landlord is a friend of a guy I work with. I explained the situation without going into too much detail, and he agreed to bypass the credit check if I co-sign and put down 3 months' rent up front." You put down 3 months' rent?" "I paid the deposit this morning," he said. "The keys are in my car." I stared at him. My mouth hung open. "Caleb, that's thousands of dollars. It's money I was saving for a new truck." He shrugged. "Who cares? The truck runs fine." "Zoe can't live like this, V, and neither can you. You look—" He hesitated, looking at my baggy sweater, my tired eyes. "You look like you're disappearing." "I feel like I am," I whispered. "So here's the plan," Caleb continued, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "We don't do this slowly. We do it like a Band-Aid. Tomorrow morning, I come by with a U-Haul, just a van. We take clothes, Zoe's toys, your computer. Leave the furniture. Leave the heirlooms. We get you out in an hour." "She'll lose her mind," I said. "She'll physically try to stop us." "Let her try," Caleb said. I'll stand in the doorway. She can't move me. And if she calls the cops, good. I'll show them the receipts. I'll show them the stolen mail. Let's see who they believe then. What about Zoe? I asked. School? We pull her out for a couple of days. Let her settle in. The new apartment is in the same district, so she doesn't have to change schools eventually. But for now, we just get her out. It sounded like a dream. A terrifying, impossible dream. Tomorrow? Tomorrow, Caleb confirmed. Are you in? I took a deep breath. The musty air filled my lungs. I'm in. Knock, knock, knock. 3 sharp raps on the door, not aggressive, but authoritative. Veronica? Agnes's voice came through the wood, muffled but distinct. What are you doing in there? Zoe's bus will be here any minute. You know she panics if you aren't at the stop. I jumped away from Caleb like we'd been caught making out. I checked my watch. 3:25 p.m. I'm coming, Mom, I yelled back. Open the door, she commanded. I need the vacuum. It's in that closet. Just a second. I looked at Caleb. Hide the letter. He shoved the crumpled envelope into his inside jacket pocket. I unlocked the door. Agnes was standing there, arms crossed. She wasn't looking at the vacuum closet. She was looking at Caleb's face, then mine. Her eyes were scanning us like a barcode reader. You two look flushed, she observed, stepping into the room. She didn't go for the vacuum. She walked right up to Caleb. Plotting against the regime, are we? She laughed, but her eyes remained ice cold. We were catching up, Agnes, Caleb said stiffly. Catching up on what? My finances? She turned to me, her smile dropping instantly. I saw you snooping yesterday, Veronica. Did you think I wouldn't notice my jewelry box was moved? Did you think I wouldn't notice the receipts were out of order? My stomach dropped. I hadn't been careful enough. I didn't take anything, I stammered. No, but you looked, she spat, and I assume you told him. She gestured vaguely at Caleb. Well, let me tell you something before you get any bright ideas about rescue missions. She took a step back, positioning herself in the doorway, blocking our exit. I spoke to my lawyer this morning, she lied. I knew it was a lie. She didn't have a lawyer on retainer, but she delivered it with such conviction that my knees went weak. In this state, grandparents have rights, especially when the mother is unstable, unemployed, living in a home funded by the grandmother. You don't fund this home, Caleb interjected. You leech off it. That's not what the paperwork says, she countered smoothly. My name is on the deed. My name is on the utilities. If you try to take Zoe out of this house without my consent, I will file for emergency custody. I will claim kidnapping. I will drag you both through court for years. And Veronica? She looked at me with mock pity. You can't afford a lawyer. You can't even afford milk. You wouldn't, I whispered. I would do anything to protect this family from your incompetence, she said. So go ahead, leave. But don't think you're taking my granddaughter. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Click. Clack. I looked at Caleb. He looked ready to punch a hole in the wall. She's bluffing, he said. Grandparents' rights are for when the parent is dead or in jail. She has no case. But she has money, I said, panic rising. Or she pretends to, and she has the house. Caleb, if she calls the police and says I'm kidnapping Zoe... We stick to the plan, Caleb said firmly. But we have to be smarter. We can't just walk out. We have to make sure she can't stop us physically. I ran to the bus stop just as the yellow bus screeched to a halt. The doors opened and Zoe hopped down, her pink backpack bouncing against her spine. She looked tired. Her shoulders were slumped. Hi, Mama, she said, not looking up. Hi, baby. I took her hand. It was cold. Guess who's at the house? Her head snapped up. Daddy? Daddy. A smile broke across her face, the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. She started to run, dragging me along the sidewalk. When we got inside, Caleb was still in the hallway putting his boots on. He had been waiting for her. Daddy! Zoe shrieked and launched herself at him. Caleb caught her mid-air, lifting her up and burying his face in her neck. Hey, sweet pea. Whoa, you got heavy. What are they feeding you? Bricks? I wish, she giggled. Then her face fell. We don't have bricks. We have crackers. Caleb's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice light. Well, that's going to change. Listen to me, Zoe. I have to go now. No. She clung to his jacket. Don't go. Grandma is mean today. She yelled at the TV. I have to go get some things ready, Caleb said, looking at me over her head. But I'm coming back tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to go on a little adventure. Would you like that? An adventure? Zoe asked suspiciously. Like to the park? Bigger, I said, stepping in. I stroked her hair. We're going to stay at a new place for a while, a place with Daddy. Just us. Zoe's eyes went wide. She looked at the kitchen door where Agnes was loudly banging pots and pans, making her presence known. Does Grandma come? Zoe whispered. No, I said softly. Just us. Zoe looked at me, searching my face for the lie. When she didn't find one, she leaned in and whispered, Good. I hate it here, Mama. It's cold. That was it. That was the seal on the warrant. Agnes's threats about lawyers and custody dissolved in that moment. My daughter was cold in her own home. I would walk through fire to get her out. I promise, I whispered back. Tomorrow we're gone. Caleb set her down. I'll see you in the morning, Zoe. Pack your favorite toys in your backpack tonight, okay? Like a secret mission. Secret mission, she repeated, nodding solemnly. The next morning, the sun was shining. It felt ironic. The sky was a brilliant, mocking blue. I woke up at 6 a.m. I didn't sleep much. I spent the night putting clothes into trash bags and hiding them in the back of my closet. I woke Zoe up at 7. Shh, I said. Secret mission. Get dressed. Shoes on. We went downstairs. Agnes was already up. Of course she was. She was sitting in the living room, drinking coffee from her Nespresso machine, surrounded by her shopping bags like a dragon guarding its hoard. You're up early, she noted, not looking away from the TV. And why is the child wearing shoes in the house? You know the rules. I took a deep breath. My heart was hammering so hard I felt dizzy. This was it. We aren't taking them off, Mom, I said. Agnes turned her head slowly. She looked at Zoe, clutching her backpack, and then at me. She saw the tension in my shoulders. She saw the resolve. Excuse me? We're leaving, I said. The words came out stronger than I expected. Caleb is pulling into the driveway right now. We are taking our things, and we are moving out. Agnes stared at me. For a second, she looked confused. Then she laughed. It was a dry, rattling sound. Don't be ridiculous, Veronica. You have nowhere to go. Sit down and have some toast. I think there's a heel left. I'm not hungry, I said, and I'm not ridiculous. I'm done. I know about the money. I know about the mail. I know everything. And I'm not staying here to be starved and gaslit for one more day. Through the window, I saw Caleb's truck pull up. He was backing a rental van into the driveway. Agnes saw it too. Her face changed. The smug amusement vanished, replaced by a flash of genuine shock. You can't be serious, she said, standing up. The magazine slid off her lap onto the floor. You actually called him? You're going to run away with your ex-husband like a teenager? I'm moving into my own apartment, I said. Zoe, go open the door for Daddy. Zoe, stay right there, Agnes barked. Zoe froze, looking between us, terrified. Go, Zoe, I said calmly. Open the door. Zoe bolted for the door. Agnes took a step toward her, but I moved into her path. I blocked her way. Get out of my way, Veronica, she snarled. The mask was slipping. The elegant matriarch was gone. This was the real Agnes. No, I said. I said move, Agnes shrieked. She shoved me. Hard. Her manicured nails dug into my arm through my sweater. I stumbled back but kept my balance. You are ungrateful, she screamed, her face twisting into something ugly and red. I took you in when you were nothing. I cleaned up your mess. I managed your life because you were too stupid to do it yourself. And this is how you repay me, by stealing my granddaughter? She's my daughter, I yelled back. And you didn't manage my life. You ruined it. You spent my money on face cream while she ate crackers. You're sick, Mom. You need help. I need help? She laughed, a high-pitched, hysterical sound. She grabbed a porcelain figurine from the side table, a shepherdess, and hurled it at the wall. Smash! It shattered into 1,000 pieces. Zoe screamed from the hallway. I am the only one holding this family together, Agnes roared, advancing on me. You are weak! You are pathetic! You will be back in a week, crawling on your knees, begging me for money, and I will shut the door in your face. I'd rather live in a box, I said, my voice shaking but clear. The front door opened. Caleb stepped in. He saw the broken porcelain. He saw Agnes advancing on me. He saw Zoe crying by the door. That's enough, he boomed. His voice filled the room, drowning out Agnes's shrieks. Agnes spun around. Get out of my house! You are trespassing! I'm helping them move, Caleb said, stepping between us. He was a wall of muscle. Agnes looked tiny next to him, but she was vibrating with rage. And if you throw one more thing, Agnes, I will call the police and show them the mail you stole. Do you want to go to jail today, or do you want to sit down and shut up? Agnes froze. The mention of the mail and the police seemed to penetrate the fog of her rage. She looked at Caleb, then at the shattered figurine, then at me. Her breathing was jagged. Her hands were clenched into claws. Fine, she hissed, backing away. Go, take your brat and your failure of a life and get out. But don't you dare take anything that I paid for. I will check every bag. I will check every pocket. We don't want your stuff, Mom, I said, grabbing my purse. We just want out. Then go, she screamed, pointing at the door. Go and rot. She turned her back on us, shaking, staring at the wall. Let's go, Caleb said gently, grabbing my arm. Zoe is already in the truck. I got the bags from the closet. Let's just go. I took one last look at the living room, the Nespresso machine, the magazines, the broken shepherdess. I walked out the door, and I didn't close it behind me. Ooh! We were halfway down the walkway when I realized I didn't have Zoe's inhaler. It was in the kitchen, on the counter next to the damn Nespresso machine. Caleb, wait, I gasped, stopping so abruptly my sneakers skidded on the wet pavement. The inhaler, I left it. I'll get it, Caleb said, dropping a trash bag full of clothes onto the grass. No, I said, a sudden surge of adrenaline hitting me. I'll get it. You watch Zoe. I turned and ran back into the house. The front door was still open. Agnes was standing in the foyer. She wasn't looking at the wall anymore. She was watching us through the sidelight window, her face pressed against the glass like a ghost. When she saw me coming back, she straightened up, a flicker of triumph crossing her face. She thought I was coming back to beg. I brushed past her without a word, running into the kitchen. I grabbed the inhaler. When I turned to leave, she was blocking the hallway. She had moved fast. She stood with her arms spread wide, gripping the door frames on either side. You forgot something, she sneered. Did you realize you have no money for gas? Did reality hit you that quickly? Move, Mom, I said, clutching the inhaler. No, she said. You don't get to walk out and then walk back in. If you leave with nothing. That inhaler, I paid for the copay. It's mine. It was so petty, so absurd that I almost laughed. But then I looked at her eyes. She was desperate. She was losing her supply, her audience, her punching bag, and she was trying to hold on to anything she could. It's for your granddaughter's lungs, I said, my voice low. I don't care, she hissed. Put it down. She reached for my wrist. Her fingers were cold and dry. She clamped down, digging her nails in. Let go, I warned. Put it down, she screamed, yanking my arm. I didn't think. I just reacted. I used my body weight. I had 30 pounds on her, and I shoved forward. I didn't hit her. I just barged through her blockade like a linebacker. She stumbled back, losing her grip on the doorframe. She tripped over her own feet and fell onto her butt on the hardwood floor with a loud thump. She looked up at me, stunned. I had never touched her. I had never defied her physically. "You pushed me," she whispered, her eyes wide with shock. "You assaulted your mother." "I walked through a door," I said, stepping over her legs. "Goodbye, Agnes." I walked out. I didn't run. I walked. I heard her scrambling to her feet behind me, heard her screaming something about the police, about assault, but the wind outside snatched the words away. I got into the truck. Caleb looked at me. "You okay?" "Drive," I said, staring straight ahead. "Just drive." The apartment building was a brown brick block that smelled faintly of boiled cabbage and floor wax. It wasn't luxury. It wasn't the suburban colonial Agnes prided herself on. It was beautiful. We walked up to the third floor. My legs felt like jelly, not from the exertion, but from the adrenaline crash. Caleb unlocked the door, apartment 3B, and swung it open. "Welcome home," he said quietly. I stepped inside. It was small. The living room and kitchen were basically one room separated by a counter. The carpet was a generic beige industrial weave. The walls were stark white. It was empty, completely empty. No clutter, no magazines, no porcelain dolls staring at me, no Nespresso machine judging me. "It echoes," Zoe said, walking into the center of the room. She spun around, watching her backpack swing. "Hello." "Hello," the walls answered back. I walked to the window. It looked out over an alleyway, but if you craned your neck, you could see a slice of the park. "It's perfect," I whispered. I felt a sob climbing up my throat, but I swallowed it down. I couldn't break down yet. Caleb brought the boxes in. It took 3 trips. We piled them in the middle of the living room. It looked like a campsite. "The landlord turned the heat on yesterday," Caleb said, rubbing his hands together. "And I stocked the fridge. Just basics. Milk, bread, eggs, juice, real butter." "Real butter?" I laughed, a wet, shaky sound. "We're living like kings." "You deserve it," he said. He looked around the empty space, then at me. "I can stay, V. I can sleep on the floor if you're scared she'll come." "No," I said, shaking my head. "I need to do this. I need to spend the night here. Just us. I need to know I can." We ordered pizza, pepperoni with extra cheese. We sat on the floor of the living room using a cardboard box as a table. Zoe was sitting cross-legged, holding a slice of pizza with both hands, grease dripping down her chin. She looked feral and happy. "Is Grandma eating pizza?" she asked between bites. I froze mid-chew. The guilt was a reflex. "I don't know, baby. Probably not. Grandma likes soup." "She said pizza is for peasants," Zoe recalled, wiping her mouth on her sleeve. "I like being a peasant." "Me too," I said. "Peasants have more fun." By 9 p.m., Zoe was asleep on an air mattress Caleb had brought over. I covered her with her favorite duvet, the one I'd managed to stuff into a trash bag. She was clutching her inhaler in her sleep, a habit she'd developed over the last few months. I sat on the floor in the dark, leaning against the wall. The only light came from the street lamp outside. It was quiet. At Agnes's house, silence was heavy. It was a weapon. It meant she was angry or plotting or listening. Here, the silence was just the absence of noise. I heard a car drive by. I heard the refrigerator hum. I heard the neighbor upstairs walk across the floor. My phone buzzed on the floor beside me. Caleb. "Locked up?" Me. "Double locked, chain on." Caleb. "Good. Try to sleep. You're safe." I stared at the text. Safe. I didn't feel safe yet. I felt like an escaped prisoner waiting for the sirens, but I took a deep breath, and for the first time in years, my chest expanded fully. The air didn't smell like lilies. It smelled like pizza and freedom. The first 3 days were a blur of panic attacks and euphoria. I would wake up at 6 a.m., heart racing, thinking I had missed the alarm to make Agnes's coffee. I would rush to the kitchen, see the cheap coffee pot Caleb had bought, and remember. Then I would check my bank account. 18, then I would check the fridge. Still full. but the phantom limb of Agnes was everywhere. I flinched when the phone rang. I hesitated before opening the blinds. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on Thursday afternoon. I was unpacking books. My phone chimed, a text from a number I had blocked, but voicemail still came through. Voice message, 2:14 p.m. I pressed play, holding the phone away from my ear like it might bite me. Veronica. Her voice was tight, controlled. I know where you are. Susan saw Caleb's truck parked on Elm Street. You can't hide from me. We need to talk. I have things of yours, important things, and Zoe's immunization records. If you don't call me back, I'm coming over. My blood turned to ice. She knew. Of course she knew. Susan the bridge spy. I sat down on the floor, hugging my knees. Immunization records. She was holding paperwork hostage now. I wanted to crawl under the covers. I wanted to call Caleb to fix it. No, I said to the empty room. No. I stood up. My hands were shaking, but I forced them to type. Me. If you have my property, leave it on your porch. I will pick it up with a police escort. Do not come here. I hit send. 2 minutes later, a reply. Agnes, I'm already parked outside. The buzzer rang. Beezy zut. It was a harsh, ugly sound. Mama. Zoe looked up from her coloring book. Who is that? Go into the bedroom, Zoe, I said, my voice calm but hard. Put your headphones on. Watch a video. Is it Grandma? Go now. Zoe ran. I waited until the bedroom door clicked shut. Bees. She was leaning on it. I walked to the intercom. Go away, Agnes. Let me in, Veronica. I have gifts for Zoe. I have a strudel. I don't want your strudel. Leave. I am her grandmother. You cannot keep her from me. I will scream until the neighbors call the police. I knew she would. She thrived on scenes. I took a deep breath. I walked to the door. I unlocked the deadbolt but kept the chain on. I opened the door 2 inches. Agnes was standing in the hallway. She looked diminished. Her hair was slightly loose. Her trench coat was buttoned wrong. She was holding a Tupperware container and a bag from the toy store. Veronica, she said, trying to push the door open. The chain caught, snapping taut. Open this door. It's ridiculous. You aren't coming in, I said through the crack. I brought food, she said, holding up the Tupperware. I made that stew you like, and I bought Zoe a doll. Not a castle, just a doll. Look. She was bargaining. She was trying to buy her way back in. We don't need your food, I said. We have food. We have plenty. But I'm alone, she cracked. Her voice broke, the imperious facade shattering instantly. The house is so quiet, Veronica. It's too big. I can't sleep. The silence is loud. That's not my problem anymore, I said. You made that house a prison. Now you have to live in it. Please, she whispered, tears leaking out of her eyes. I'll change. I'll let you handle the budget. I won't buy the creams. Just come back. I can't be alone. Who will take care of me? And there it was, the truth. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about Zoe. It was about her fear of being alone with herself. She needed a host. You're an adult, Mom, I said. Figure it out, like I had to. Veronica, she wailed, reaching through the crack, her fingers grasping at air. Goodbye, Mom. I shut the door. I threw the deadbolt. I slumped against the wood, listening to her sob in the hallway. It was a terrible sound. It tore at my heart because I was conditioned to fix her pain. But I didn't open the door. I stayed there until her footsteps faded away. Update. It's been 3 months since the day I locked that door. I wish I could tell you that everything was magically perfect the next day, but that's not how trauma works. I spent the first month jumping every time the buzzer rang. I had nightmares about empty fridges, but we made it. Caleb helped me get a better job, an office manager position at his friend's company. It pays actual money. I have my own bank account. I have savings. Not a lot, but enough that I know I can buy milk without asking permission. She's blooming. That's the only word for it. She's gained weight. The dark circles are gone. She doesn't hoard food in her pockets anymore, although we still have a snack drawer that she's allowed to access whenever she wants, just to reassure her it's never going away. And Agnes? Well, she didn't sue us. She didn't have a lawyer. That was all a bluff. We have a new arrangement. She sees Zoe once every 2 weeks, supervised, in a public park, never at my apartment, never at her house. I saw her last Sunday. She sat on a park bench watching Zoe play on the swings. She looked older, smaller. She was wearing a coat I'd never seen before, probably from a thrift store. She complained about the cold, about her neighbors, about the price of tea. But when she looked at me, she didn't criticize my hair. She didn't ask about my finances. She just looked wary. She knows now. She knows that I hold the keys. She knows that if she pushes, even a little, I will disappear again. I walked to the grocery store yesterday. I stood in the bread aisle. There was the store brand for $1.99 and the artisanal sourdough for $6. I bought the sourdough. I took it home, toasted a slice, slathered it in real butter, and sat by the window watching the rain fall on the city. It was the best thing I've ever tasted. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.